The windshield wipers fought a losing battle against the October rain as Aurelia Vance gripped the steering wheel. 12 hours at Mercy General had left her bones aching and her mind fuzzy, but she was almost home. Just 10 more minutes and she could collapse into bed, maybe heat up that leftover Chinese food if she had the energy. The bridge ahead disappeared into fog so thick it looked solid. She slowed to 20 miles per hour, leaning forward to peer through the murk. That's when she heard it. The violent screech of tires losing their grip on wet asphalt, followed by the sickening crunch of metal against concrete. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Now, let's continue. A black Cadillac materialized from the fog like a ghost, spinning wildly across both lanes. Time seemed to slow as Aurelia watched it slam into the bridge's guardrail. The metal barrier, already weakened by years of salt and weather, gave way with a groan. The luxury car tipped, hesitated for one heart-stopping moment, then plunged into the dark river below. "No, no, no!" Aurelia slammed on her brakes, her car fishtailing before coming to a stop. Without thinking, she threw open her door and ran to the broken rail. 20 feet below, the Cadillac was already half submerged, its headlights creating twin yellow pools in the churning water. Someone was in that car, someone who had maybe 30 seconds before the vehicle went under completely. Aurelia kicked off her shoes, her nurse's training overriding every instinct that screamed at her to stay safe. The October water hit her like 1,000 needles, so cold it stole her breath. She forced herself to swim toward the sinking car, fighting against the current that wanted to drag her downstream. The driver's window was cracked but not broken. Through it, she could see a man slumped over the steering wheel, unconscious. Blood ran from a gash on his forehead, mixing with the water that was rapidly filling the car's interior. He was big, his broad shoulders filling the seat, which would make this rescue even harder. Aurelia grabbed the door handle and pulled. Nothing. The water pressure held it shut like it was welded. The car lurched, sinking faster. She had to break the window completely. Looking around frantically, she spotted a piece of rebar from the broken guardrail that had fallen into the water. She grabbed it and struck the cracked window with all her strength, once, twice, 3 times before it shattered inward. Water rushed in faster now. The man stirred slightly but didn't wake. Aurelia reached through, fumbling with his seatbelt. Her fingers were already numb from the cold, making the simple task feel impossible. Finally, the belt released. The car was going down. She could feel it dropping beneath her. Using strength she didn't know she possessed, Aurelia grabbed the man under his arms and pulled. He was heavy, so heavy, and for a terrifying moment she thought they would both go down with the Cadillac. Then he was free, floating beside her as the car disappeared into the murky depths. His weight threatened to drag them both under, but Aurelia wrapped her arm around his chest, keeping his head above water as she swam desperately for shore. Her legs felt like lead by the time her feet touched the muddy bank. She dragged him onto solid ground, her chest heaving as she gasped for air. Even in the dim light she could see he wasn't breathing. "Come on," she whispered, positioning his head and starting CPR. Her lips pressed against his, breathing life back into his lungs. 1 breath, 2 breaths, then chest compressions. "Come on, don't you dare die on me." Water erupted from his mouth as he coughed violently, his body convulsing as he fought for air. Aurelia rolled him onto his side, rubbing his back as he expelled river water. When he finally stopped coughing, he turned those eyes on her. Even in the darkness, she could see they were the color of expensive whiskey, brown with hints of gold. "You." His voice was rough, barely above a whisper. He studied her face with an intensity that made her shiver for reasons that had nothing to do with the cold. "You pulled me out?" "Yes," Aurelia said, suddenly aware of how she must look, soaking wet, her dark curls plastered to her round face, her scrubs clinging to her full figure. "We need to get you to a hospital. You might have a concussion, and that cut needs stitches." He tried to sit up, winced, and grabbed her arm. His grip was surprisingly strong for someone who had just nearly drowned. No hospitals. Sir, you were just in a serious accident. You need no hospitals. His eyes hardened, and for the first time, Aurelia felt a flutter of fear. This wasn't just stubbornness, this was something else. You'll regret this, he added, so quietly she almost missed it. Regret saving your life? She pulled her arm free, irritation replacing fear. Look, I don't know what your problem is, but the sound of engines made them both freeze. 3 black SUVs materialized from the fog, screeching to a halt near Aurelia's abandoned car. Men in dark suits poured out, their hands reaching inside their jackets in a way that made Aurelia's blood run cold. Mr. Atlas, one of them shouted, running toward them. Sir, are you hurt? Atlas. Frederick Atlas. Aurelia's stomach dropped as she recognized the name. She'd saved Frederick Atlas, the man whose name was whispered in the hospital when gunshot victims refused to say who shot them. The man who supposedly owned half the city's underground. Fred's hand found hers, squeezing once. Get her warm, he ordered his men, his voice carrying an authority that made them move immediately. And get her information. She saved my life. Sir, we should... Now. The single word cut through all argument. One of the men draped a jacket around Aurelia's shoulders, while another helped Fred to his feet. He swayed slightly but stayed upright through what looked like sheer force of will. What's your name? Fred asked, those whiskey eyes finding hers again. Aurelia, she heard herself say. Aurelia Vance. He nodded slowly, filing the information away. I owe you a debt, Aurelia Vance. In my world, that means something. Before she could respond, his men were helping him toward one of the SUVs. Another man approached her with a notebook, asking for her address, her phone number. She gave the information numbly, her mind struggling to process what had just happened. As the SUVs pulled away, disappearing into the fog as suddenly as they'd appeared, Aurelia stood shivering on the riverbank. She'd just saved a mafia boss from drowning. Frederick Atlas owed her a debt. Why did that feel more like a threat than a promise? She walked back to her car on unsteady legs, her bare feet cold against the wet asphalt. The broken guardrail seemed to mock her, a gaping mouth warning her that she'd just crossed a line she couldn't uncross. At home, after a hot shower that didn't quite chase away the chill, Aurelia lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She could still feel the pressure of his lips against hers during CPR, could still see those dangerous eyes studying her face. Frederick Atlas was not a man you wanted to be noticed by. And she'd just put herself directly in his line of sight. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. You're safe. Sleep well, Aurelia. No signature, but she knew who it was from. She should have been terrified. Should have been planning to leave town, to disappear before she got pulled any deeper into whatever this was. Instead, she found herself reading the message again, her finger hovering over the reply button. She'd saved his life. That had to count for something, even in his dark world. Didn't it? Thunder rumbled outside, and Aurelia pulled her blanket higher. Tomorrow, she told herself, she would go back to her normal life. Tomorrow, this would all be just a strange story to never tell anyone. She didn't know that tomorrow, 10 black SUVs would line her quiet street. And Frederick Atlas would walk back into her life with an offer she couldn't refuse. But tonight, she closed her eyes and tried not to think about whiskey-colored eyes and the dangerous gratitude of a man who lived in shadows. Aurelia woke to the sound of her doorbell ringing insistently. She glanced at her phone, 6:47 a.m. Her shift didn't start until noon, and nobody ever visited her this early. The events of last night crashed back into her consciousness as she pulled on a robe and padded downstairs. Through the peephole, she saw a man in an expensive suit holding a garment bag and several shopping boxes. Behind him, A black SUV idled at the curb. "Miss Vance?" he called through the door. "Mr. Atlas sent me." Her heart skipped. She'd hoped last night would fade like a strange dream. But apparently Frederick Atlas wasn't done with her. She opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. "What is this?" "Replacement clothes, ma'am. Mr. Atlas wanted to replace what was ruined last night." The man's tone was professionally neutral, but his eyes kept scanning the street like he expected trouble. "There's also an invitation." "I don't need new clothes." "Please, Miss Vance. Mr. Atlas insists." She wanted to refuse, to close the door and pretend none of this was happening, but curiosity won. She unlatched the chain and accepted the packages. The man handed her an envelope made of paper so expensive it felt like silk. "Mr. Atlas requests your company for dinner tonight. 8 o'clock. The driver will pick you up at 7:30. He turned to leave, then paused. It would be unwise to refuse. The SUV pulled away, leaving Aurelia standing in her doorway with an armful of designer boxes. She carried them to her living room and opened the envelope with trembling fingers. "Aurelia, you saved my life. The least I can do is feed you. Wear the blue dress. F.A." His handwriting was bold, confident, each letter precisely formed. She set the note aside and opened the garment bag. Inside was a midnight blue cocktail dress that probably cost more than her monthly salary. The fabric felt like water between her fingers, and it was exactly her size. How did he know her size? The other boxes contained shoes, jewelry, even lingerie. Everything perfectly sized, everything devastatingly expensive. The intimacy of it made her skin flush. Frederick Atlas had thought about what she would wear against her skin. At work, Aurelia tried to focus on her patients, but her mind kept drifting to tonight. What did a mafia boss want with her? She'd saved his life, yes, but surely a thank you note would have sufficed. This felt like something more. "You okay, honey?" Her colleague Maria touched her shoulder. "You seem distracted." "Just tired," Aurelia lied. "You should have seen the men asking about you earlier," Maria said, lowering her voice. "Suits, sunglasses, the works. They wanted to know your schedule, your habits. Security said they couldn't do anything since they weren't technically threatening anyone, but it was creepy." Aurelia's blood chilled. "What did you tell them?" "Nothing. I'm not stupid. But Aurelia, what have you gotten yourself into?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "Stop worrying. They're my men. You're under my protection now." She stared at the message. How did he know she was worrying? Was someone watching her right now? She looked around the break room, suddenly paranoid. The rest of her shift crawled by. Every man in a suit made her heart race. Every black car in the parking lot could be one of his. By the time 7:30 arrived, she was a bundle of nerves. The blue dress fit like it had been made for her, hugging her curves in ways that made her feel both beautiful and exposed. She'd always been self-conscious about her full figure, but this dress made every curve look intentional, desirable. The doorbell rang exactly at 7:30. A different man waited outside, older, with silver at his temples. "Miss Vance, I'm Marcus, Mr. Atlas's head of security. He wanted me to escort you personally." The drive took them into the city's most exclusive neighborhood, where houses hid behind gates and privacy hedges. They pulled up to a modern mansion that was all glass and sharp angles, beautiful and dangerous looking, just like its owner. Fred stood in the foyer when she entered. He wore a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and narrow waist. The gash on his forehead had been professionally tended, giving him a dangerous edge. His whiskey eyes traveled slowly from her heels to her face, lingering on the way the dress clung to her hips. "You wore the blue," he said, his voice deep with satisfaction. "You didn't give me much choice." "There's always a choice, Aurelia." He moved closer, and she caught his scent. Expensive cologne mixed with something darker, gunpowder maybe. or smoke. You chose to save me. You chose to come tonight. The man who delivered the clothes suggested refusing would be unwise. Fred's jaw tightened. He overstepped. You're not a prisoner. If you want to leave, Marcus will take you home right now. It was a test, she realized. She lifted her chin. I'm here. Might as well eat. His smile was slow, predatory. Brave little nurse. The dining room was intimate despite its size, the table set for two with candles casting dancing shadows on the walls. Fred pulled out her chair, his fingers brushing her bare shoulders as he pushed it in. The touch sent electricity down her spine. Tell me about yourself, he said as a silent server poured wine. There's not much to tell. I'm a nurse. I live alone. I save drowning mobsters on Tuesday nights. He laughed. A rich sound that transformed his face. Mobster. Such an old-fashioned word. What would you prefer? Entrepreneur? Businessman? I prefer Fred. His eyes held hers. At least from you. The food was incredible, though Aurelia barely tasted it. She was too aware of Fred watching her, studying her like she was a puzzle he needed to solve. Why am I here? She finally asked. You saved my life. So send a fruit basket. This, she gestured at the dress, the mansion, everything. This is excessive. Fred leaned back, swirling his wine. In my world, debts must be paid properly. You risked your life for a stranger. That requires more than fruit. I'm a nurse. It's what I do. No. His voice turned serious. Most people would have driven past. Called 911 maybe, but stayed safe. You jumped into freezing water for someone you didn't know. Why? Aurelia considered lying, but those whiskey eyes seemed to see through everything. My brother drowned when I was 16. I couldn't save him. I was right there, but I froze. I've been trying to make up for it ever since. The confession hung between them. Fred stood and moved around the table, offering her his hand. Dance with me. There's no music. He pulled her to her feet anyway, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. Listen. Soft jazz floated from hidden speakers. Fred drew her close, their bodies fitting together like puzzle pieces. Her soft curves pressed against his hard chest, and she felt his breath against her ear. You think saving me was about your brother, he murmured. But I think you're just extraordinarily brave. Or extraordinarily stupid. His hand tightened on her waist. Never that. They swayed together, and Aurelia let herself lean into his warmth. This was insane. He was dangerous, a criminal, everything she should run from, but in his arms, she felt something she hadn't expected. Safe. You know what I am? Fred said. What I do. Doesn't that frighten you? Should it? Yes. His hand moved to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. But I don't want you to be afraid of me. The air between them crackled. Aurelia's heart pounded as Fred's face lowered toward hers. This was the moment to pull away, to maintain boundaries. Instead, she rose on her toes to meet him. His kiss was nothing like the CPR last night. This was fire and demand. His mouth claiming hers with a passion that made her knees weak. She gripped his shoulders, feeling the muscle beneath the expensive suit. He tasted like wine and danger, and she wanted more. Fred backed her against the wall, his body caging hers. His lips moved to her throat, finding the spot where her pulse raced. Aurelia, he growled against her skin, and her name had never sounded so much like a prayer and a curse combined. Her fingers tangled in his dark hair as he kissed her again, deeper this time, his tongue exploring her mouth while his hands gripped her hips. She could feel his need, hard and insistent against her stomach, and an answering heat bloomed low in her belly. Stay, he commanded between kisses. Stay with me tonight. Reality crashed back. She pressed her hands against his chest, pushing gently. He stepped back immediately, though his eyes remained dark with desire. I can't, she whispered. This is We just met. You're a criminal, he finished. Someone you should run from. Yes. He touched her cheek gently. Then run, Aurelia. But know that I've already decided. You're mine. Whether you accept it now or later, you belong to me. She should have been offended by his arrogance. Instead, heat pooled in her stomach. You can't just decide that. Watch me. He stepped back, straightening his tie. Marcus will take you home. But Aurelia, this isn't over. The ride home was silent. Aurelia touched her swollen lips, still feeling the burn of his kiss. She'd crossed a line tonight, one she couldn't uncross. As Marcus pulled up to her house, she gasped. 3 black SUVs were parked on her street. Men in suits standing beside them. Protection, Marcus explained. Mr. Atlas's enemies know about you now. These men will ensure your safety. Her quiet life was officially over. She was in Frederick Atlas's world now, whether she wanted to be or not. Aurelia couldn't sleep. Every time a car passed her house, she tensed, waiting for gunshots or breaking glass. The SUVs outside should have made her feel safe, but they only reminded her how much her life had changed in 48 hours. At 3 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. Can't sleep either? Fred's deep voice sent warmth through her chest. How did you know? Your bedroom light is on. She moved to the window, peering through the curtains. One of the SUVs flashed its headlights. You're here? No, but my men report everything. A pause. I'm thinking about last night. Her face heated, remembering his mouth on hers, his hands gripping her hips. Fred, say my name again. This is inappropriate. Everything about us is inappropriate, Aurelia. Your bedroom. Is it the one with the blue curtains? She should hang up. Instead, she found herself saying, yes. I keep thinking about you in that dress, the way you tasted, like innocence and sin mixed together. Her breath caught. You can't say things like that. I can do whatever I want. That's the benefit of being who I am. His voice dropped lower. What are you wearing? Fred! Cotton pajamas, I'd guess. Something soft and practical. But underneath, he made a sound that was almost a growl. I know what's underneath because I bought it. The lingerie he'd sent. She was wearing it now. Black lace against her skin. You're dangerous. Yes, but not to you. Never to you. A crash from downstairs made her gasp. The phone went dead. Heavy footsteps on her stairs, getting closer. She grabbed the baseball bat beside her bed, her heart hammering. Her bedroom door burst open. 3 men rushed in, but not Fred's men. These were different, rougher, with cruel eyes and scarred faces. There she is, one said. Atlas's new toy. Before she could scream, Fred's men were there, flooding the room. The fight was brutal and quick. Aurelia pressed against the wall, watching in horror as bodies collided, blood splattered her carpet. Then Fred arrived. He moved through her bedroom doorway, like violence personified, his face a mask of cold fury. He didn't speak, just walked straight to the man who'd called her a toy and grabbed his throat. You broke into her house. His voice was deadly calm. You threatened her. Tell me why I shouldn't kill you right now. The man gasped, clawing at Fred's hand. Mikhail sent us. Said to bring the girl. Use her to get to you. Fred's grip tightened. Mikhail is dead. He just doesn't know it yet. The crack of the man's neck made Aurelia flinch. Fred dropped the body and turned to her, his eyes scanning for injuries. Blood speckled his white shirt. Someone else's blood. Are you hurt? He reached for her, but she stepped back. You killed him, in my bedroom. He threatened you. Fred said it like that explained everything. Did they touch you? No, but... Then that's all that matters. He turned to his men. Clean this up. And find out how they got past the perimeter. His attention returned to Aurelia. Pack a bag. What? You're not safe here anymore. Pack a bag. I have work tomorrow. I have a life, Fred. I can't just... He moved closer, backing her against the wall, not threatening, but intense. Your life changed the moment you pulled me from that river. Mikhail Volkov thinks he can use you against me. Others will think the same. You can hate me for it, but I won't let them hurt you. This is insane. 3 days ago I was nobody. Now there are dead bodies in my bedroom. I know. His hand cupped her face gently, such a contrast to the violence she'd just witnessed. I'm sorry you got pulled into this, but you're in it now, and the only way through is with me. She wanted to argue, but the blood on her carpet was still warm. These men had come for her, would have taken her, hurt her, used her. The reality of it made her knees weak. Where would I go? My place. It's secure. People will talk, they'll think. Let them think. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Unless you care what people think about us being together? Together. The word hung between them, loaded with possibility. We're not together, she whispered. Aren't we? He leaned closer, his breath warm against her lips. I've thought about nothing but you for 2 days. I can still taste you. Feel you pressed against me. Tell me you haven't thought about it too. She had. God help her, she'd replayed their kiss 100 times. That doesn't mean... He kissed her, cutting off her protest. This kiss was different from last night's. Desperate. Possessive. His hands tangled in her hair while his tongue claimed her mouth. She should push him away. There was blood on his shirt, on his hands. He'd just killed someone. Instead, she kissed him back. Her hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. He groaned against her mouth, pressing her harder against the wall. She could feel every hard line of his body, could taste his need. Aurelia, he breathed against her lips. Let me protect you. Mr. Atlas? Marcus stood in the doorway, carefully not looking at them. The house is clear, but we should go. Fred stepped back, his eyes still burning into hers. Pack, now. She threw clothes into a bag, her hands shaking. This was crazy. She was leaving her house with a mafia boss who'd just killed someone in her bedroom. But staying meant more men coming for her, and next time Fred might not arrive in time. Fred's mansion looked different at night, like a fortress. He led her to a guest suite that was bigger than her entire house. You'll be safe here, he said. My room is just down the hall if you need anything. Fred? She touched his bloodied shirt. What is Mikhail Volkov to you? A rival, someone who wants what I have. His jaw tightened. He won't get it. And he won't get you. Why does this feel like more than just protection? He moved closer, his hands settling on her waist. Because it is. Because from the moment you breathed life back into me, you became mine. I don't share what's mine, and I don't let anyone hurt what's mine. I'm not property. No. He kissed her forehead, then her temple, then the spot just below her ear that made her shiver. You're so much more than that. His mouth found hers again, hot and demanding. She melted against him, her curves molding to his hard body. His hands roamed her back, her hips, pulling her impossibly closer. Stay with me tonight, he murmured against her throat. Not for sex, just stay. The vulnerability in his voice undid her. This dangerous man who commanded armies was asking her to simply sleep beside him. Okay, she whispered. His bedroom was all dark wood and masculine elegance. He gave her one of his shirts to sleep in, and she changed in his bathroom, very aware that he was waiting just outside. When she emerged, he was already in bed, shirtless, the sheets low on his hips. The sight of his muscled chest, marked with scars from old battles, made her mouth dry. Come here, he commanded softly. She slid into bed beside him, and he immediately pulled her against his chest. She fit perfectly in his arms, her soft body cushioned against his hard one. "Tell me about the scars," she said, tracing one with her finger. "Each one is a lesson learned. This one," he guided her finger to a puckered mark near his ribs, "taught me not to trust anyone completely. This one," another scar on his shoulder, "taught me that family can betray you just as easily as enemies." "That's sad." "That's life in my world." He tilted her chin up. "But you jumped into freezing water for a stranger. You don't think like we do. You're good." "I'm in bed with a mafia boss who just killed someone. How good can I be?" "The best kind of good. The kind that sees past the monster to the man." She kissed him then, slow and deep. He groaned, rolling them so she was beneath him, his weight pressing her into the mattress. His hands skimmed her sides, her thighs, mapping her body through his shirt. "Aurelia," he growled, "you're testing my control." "Maybe I want to." He claimed her mouth again, harder this time, his body rigid with restraint. When he finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Not tonight," he said roughly. "When I have you, it won't be because you're scared and seeking comfort. It'll be because you want me, as desperately as I want you." He pulled her back against his chest, holding her like she might disappear. "Sleep. Tomorrow we deal with Mikhail." "What are you going to do?" His arms tightened around her. "Whatever it takes to keep you safe." As she drifted off, surrounded by his warmth and scent, Aurelia realized she was already in too deep. Fred Atlas had claimed her as his, and despite every logical reason to run, she was starting to want to be claimed. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new choices. But tonight, in the arms of the most dangerous man in the city, she felt completely, impossibly safe. Aurelia woke to an empty bed. The sheets beside her were still warm, and she could hear Fred's voice through the door, low and angry. "I don't care what his excuses are, Vincent. Someone told Mikhail's men exactly when the guard rotation changed. Find out who, or I'll assume it's you." She pulled on a robe and found Fred standing by the window, phone pressed to his ear, tension radiating from every line of his body. He wore only black dress pants, his muscled back on full display. When he noticed her, his expression softened. "Handle it," he said into the phone, then hung up. "Good morning." "Trouble?" "Always." He crossed to her, hands settling on her waist. "But nothing you need to worry about." "Fred, someone in your organization betrayed you. I think I have a right to worry." His jaw tightened. "You're perceptive." "I'm not stupid. Last night shouldn't have happened. Your men were supposed to protect me, but someone gave those attackers the perfect window." She placed her hands on his bare chest, feeling his heart beating strong and steady. "Who knew about the guard rotation?" "My inner circle. 6 men I've trusted for years." He caught her hand, pressing it harder against his heart. "One of them sold me out." "What are you going to do?" "Whatever it takes." His eyes darkened. "But first, I'm taking you to breakfast." The dining room was filled with people when they arrived. Men in expensive suits stood as Fred entered, their eyes sliding to Aurelia with curiosity and, in some cases, hostility. She suddenly felt very aware that she was wearing only a robe in a room full of dangerous men. Fred's hand tightened on her waist. "Gentlemen, this is Aurelia Vance. She's under my personal protection, which means she's untouchable. Spread the word." "Boss," a man with silver-streaked hair stepped forward. "Is it wise to bring an outsider into headquarters?" "Are you questioning me, Vincent?" Vincent's eyes flickered. "Never. Just concerned about security." "Your concern is noted." Fred's tone could have frozen fire. "Now sit." Breakfast was tense. Aurelia felt the weight of 6 pairs of eyes studying her, calculating her worth, her weaknesses. Fred introduced them. Vincent, his second-in-command, Marco, head of operations, Dante, his financial advisor, Luis, weapons specialist, Angelo, who handled acquisitions, and Thomas, his oldest friend. How did you meet the boss? Thomas asked, his tone friendly but probing. I pulled him from a sinking car, Aurelia said. Lucky timing, Marco muttered. Fred's fork clattered against his plate. What was that? Nothing, boss. Just saying she was in the right place at the right time. Are you implying something? The temperature in the room dropped. Marco raised his hands. No, boss. Just making conversation. But Aurelia caught the look that passed between Marco and Vincent. Quick, meaningful. Her nurse's instincts, honed from years of reading patients, screamed warning. After breakfast, Fred was pulled into meetings. Marcus assigned her a bodyguard, a young man named Tony who followed her like a shadow as she explored the mansion. How long have you worked for Mr. Atlas? She asked. 5 years. He saved my life when I was 16, got me off the streets. Tony's loyalty was evident in every word. Best man I know. Even though he's a criminal? Tony shrugged. He's fair, protects his people. There are worse things to be. They passed a room where voices rose in argument. Through the cracked door, Aurelia saw Vincent and Marco in heated discussion. Getting sloppy because of some woman, Marco was saying. Keep your voice down, Vincent hissed. But you're right. She's a distraction, makes him vulnerable. Maybe that's not a bad thing, for us. Aurelia's blood chilled. She started to move away. But her foot caught on the rug. The door flew open. Vincent stood there, his expression carefully neutral. Miss Vance? Looking for something? Just exploring. Tony was showing me around. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. The boss's private quarters are upstairs. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable there. It was a dismissal and a threat. Tony guided her away quickly. You shouldn't eavesdrop, he whispered. Not on them. I didn't mean to. But her mind was racing. Marco and Vincent had been discussing Fred like he was a problem to be solved, and her presence was making it worse. She found Fred in his office, staring at security footage. He looked exhausted, the weight of his empire pressing down on broad shoulders. We need to talk, she said. He pulled her onto his lap, burying his face in her neck. Yeah. I've been in meetings for 4 hours. Let me just hold you for a minute. Her anger melted. She ran her fingers through his hair, feeling him relax against her. Fred, I heard Vincent and Marco talking. His body went rigid. What did they say? She told him everything. When she finished, his expression was carved from stone. They're right about one thing. You make me vulnerable. He cupped her face. Before you, I didn't care about anything except power and control. Now I care about you, and my enemies know it. Then maybe I should leave. Go back to my life. No. The word was absolute. He stood, lifting her with him, and set her on his desk. You're not leaving. Not now. Not ever. You can't just decide that. Watch me. His hands gripped her thighs, spreading them so he could step between. You're mine, Aurelia. Mine to protect, mine to keep, mine to love. Love? Her heart stuttered. What else would you call this? His thumb traced her lower lip. This obsession I have with you? This need to keep you close, keep you safe, keep you in my bed every night? Insanity, she whispered. That too. He kissed her, deep and possessive. His hands roamed her body, relearning curves he'd mapped last night. She wrapped her legs around his waist, pulling him closer. A knock interrupted them. Fred growled against her mouth. What? Vincent entered, stopping short when he saw their position. We have a problem. Mikhail is requesting a meeting. Fred helped Aurelia off the desk, though he kept her close. When? Tonight. Neutral ground. He says he wants to discuss a truce. It's a trap. Obviously. Vincent's eyes slid to Aurelia. He specifically requested that you bring Miss Vance. Absolutely not. Boss, if we refuse, it shows weakness. He'll know she matters to you. He already knows. But confirmation is different. Vincent leaned forward. Bring her to the meeting. Show you're not afraid. We'll have men everywhere. She'll be protected. Aurelia touched Fred's arm. Maybe he's right. You don't understand what you're saying. I understand that hiding me makes me look like your weakness. But if I stand beside you... She lifted her chin. Then I'm your strength. Pride flashed in Fred's eyes, followed quickly by fear. If anything happens to you, it won't. You won't let it. She kissed him softly. Trust me like I'm trusting you. He pulled her hard against him, his kiss almost bruising in its intensity. When he pulled back, his decision was made. Fine. But Vincent, if one hair on her head is harmed, I'm holding you personally responsible. Vincent's expression flickered. Understood, boss. After Vincent left, Fred held Aurelia close. I need you to promise me something. At the meeting tonight, stay by my side. Don't talk to anyone. Don't accept anything. Don't trust anyone. Not even your men? His silence was answer enough. Fred, you think the betrayal goes that deep? I think someone wants me dead and is willing to use you to make it happen. He tilted her chin up. Promise me you'll be careful. I promise. That afternoon, Fred taught her to shoot. His body pressed against her back as he guided her hands, his breath hot on her neck. Squeeze slowly, he murmured. Feel the weight of it. This could save your life tonight. The gun fired. The recoil shocking. The target's center exploded. Good girl. His lips found that sensitive spot below her ear. You're a natural. She turned in his arms. Are we going to survive this? Yes. He kissed her like it was a vow. Because I've finally found something worth living for, and I'll burn the whole city down before I let anyone take you from me. As the sun set and Aurelia dressed for the meeting in clothes Fred provided, a red dress that hugged every curve, making her look like a queen, she caught sight of Vincent watching her from the hallway. His expression was calculating, predatory. She was walking into a trap tonight. The only question was whether the danger came from Fred's enemies or from the men he called friends. Either way, blood would be spilled before sunrise. 10 black SUVs lined the street outside the abandoned warehouse where the meeting would take place. The show of force was deliberate, a reminder that Frederick Atlas didn't negotiate from a position of weakness. Aurelia counted the vehicles, her stomach nodding with each one. Breathe, Fred said, his hand warm on her thigh as they sat in the lead SUV. You look like a queen in that dress. Don't let them see fear. I'm not afraid. It was mostly true. With Fred beside her, she felt invincible and terrified in equal measure. He leaned close, his lips brushing her ear. Liar, your pulse is racing. I can see it here. His finger traced the vein in her throat, sending shivers down her spine. But fear keeps you sharp. Use it. Vincent appeared at the window. They're ready for you, boss. Fred helped Aurelia from the SUV, his hand possessive on her lower back. She was immediately surrounded by his men, a wall of muscle and weapons. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows like empty eye sockets. Inside, Mikhail Volkov waited. He was older than Fred, maybe 50, with cold blue eyes and a smile that never touched them. 3 men flanked him, hands resting near concealed weapons. Frederick, Mikhail said in accented English, so good of you to come, and you brought your little nurse. Fred's hand tightened on Aurelia's waist. You requested her presence. I wanted to see what kind of woman makes the great Frederick Atlas lose focus. Mikhail's gaze raked over Aurelia like she was meat. She's pretty, soft, not your usual type. We're not here to discuss my personal life. No? Mikhail laughed. But it's so interesting. The man who never keeps a woman longer than a night is suddenly playing house. Makes me wonder what's so special about this one. Fred moved slightly, putting himself between Aurelia and Mikhail. "State your business or we're leaving." "Business, yes." Mikhail's smile vanished. "You've been expanding into my territories. I want you to stop." "Those territories were neutral ground." "Not anymore. Pull back, or there will be consequences." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Mikhail's eyes found Aurelia again. "Pretty things are so fragile. Would be a shame if something happened to your nurse." The warehouse exploded into motion. Fred shoved Aurelia behind him as guns appeared. Vincent and his men formed a protective circle, weapons drawn. Mikhail's men did the same. "You threaten what's mine?" Fred's voice was deadly quiet. "In a negotiation you requested?" "Just making my point clear." "Then let me make mine clear." Fred pulled Aurelia forward, his arm around her waist. The move should have felt like he was using her as a prop, but instead, it felt like a claim. "This woman saved my life. She's under my protection, which means she might as well be wearing my ring. You threaten her, you threaten me, and we both know how that ends." Aurelia's heart hammered. Wearing his ring? Was he saying what she thought he was saying? Mikhail's eyes narrowed. "You'd start a war over some woman? I'd end the world for her." Fred's words rang with absolute conviction. "So ask yourself, Mikhail, is territorial dispute worth dying over?" The tension stretched like a wire about to snap. Then Mikhail laughed, the sound harsh and humorless. "You're bluffing. Try me." Before anyone could move, Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his expression shifting to something Aurelia couldn't read. "Boss, we need to go, now." "We're not done here." "Boss." Vincent's tone was urgent. "It's your house. There's been an incident." Fred's expression went blank, the look of a man calculating a dozen scenarios at once. "What kind of incident?" "The kind we need to handle immediately." They left the warehouse in a convoy, the 10 SUVs moving as one unit through the city. Fred was on his phone, barking orders, his free hand gripping Aurelia's like a lifeline. "What's happening?" she asked. "Someone hit my house while we were at the meeting." His eyes were cold fury. This was a distraction. "Mikhail kept us busy while someone else made a move." They pulled up to his mansion to find chaos. Windows shattered, bullet holes in the walls, 2 of his guards on the ground. Medical teams were already working on them, but Aurelia could see from here that one wouldn't make it. She started toward them, her nurse's instincts taking over, but Fred pulled her back. "No, this could still be a trap. That man is dying, and you're alive, which is how you're staying." He turned to Vincent. "Sweep the house, every room." His men flooded the mansion. Fred kept Aurelia close, his body a shield as they waited. The minutes crawled by. Finally, Vincent emerged. "All clear. But boss, you need to see this." They followed him to Fred's office. Someone had ransacked it, papers everywhere, the safe blown open. On his desk, written in what looked like blood, was a message. "She dies next." Aurelia felt the blood drain from her face. Fred went completely still, the kind of stillness that preceded violence. "Find them," he said softly. "Find everyone involved. I don't care if you have to tear this city apart." After his men dispersed, Fred pulled Aurelia into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. "I should never have brought you to that meeting," he said against her hair. "I made you a target." "I was already a target the moment I pulled you from that river." "No. You became a target when I decided to keep you." He pulled back, his hands framing her face. "I was selfish. I wanted you, so I took you, and now you're in danger because of me." "Fred, let me finish." His thumbs traced her cheekbones. "I've done terrible things in my life, built an empire on blood and fear. But the worst thing I've ever done is drag you into my world. You deserve better than this, better than me." She grabbed his wrists, holding his hands against her face. "Don't I get a say in this?" "Aurelia." No, you don't get to decide what I deserve. She kissed him, hard and desperate. I choose this. I choose you. He groaned against her mouth, the sound raw with need and relief. His kiss turned consuming, his tongue sweeping inside to claim her completely. She tasted his fear, his anger, his desperate need to protect her. He lifted her onto the desk, stepping between her thighs. The red dress rode up as his hands gripped her hips, pulling her to the edge. She could feel how much he wanted her, hard and insistent against her core. I need you, he growled against her throat. Need to feel you alive and safe and mine. Then take me. She pulled at his shirt, buttons scattering. Right here, right now. His hands slid up her thighs, finding the lace he'd bought her. You're sure? I've never been more sure of anything. He kissed her like he was drowning, and she was air. His fingers found her center, stroking through the lace until she moaned. She was already wet for him, had been since he'd called her his in front of Mikhail. Fred, please. A knock at the door made them both freeze. Vincent's voice came through. Boss, we found something. Fred rested his forehead against hers, breathing hard. Timing is everything, he muttered. Louder. Give me a minute. He helped her off the desk, straightening her dress with gentle hands. But before he opened the door, he pulled her close one more time. This isn't over, he promised. Tonight, after we handle this, you're mine completely. Understand? She shivered at the dark promise in his eyes. Yes. Vincent waited in the hall, his expression grim. We know who hit the house. It was Marco. Fred went very still. You're certain? Security footage. He disabled the cameras but missed one. We have him on video letting Mikhail's men in. Where is he now? In the holding room, waiting for you. Fred turned to Aurelia. Go upstairs. Don't come down until I get you. She wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped her. This was the part of his world she couldn't follow him into. The dark part where justice was delivered with bullets instead of badges. As she climbed the stairs, she heard Fred's voice, cold and final. Let's go have a conversation with Marco. Aurelia stood at the window of his bedroom, watching the city lights. Somewhere down there, Fred was doing terrible things to the man who'd betrayed him. She should be horrified, should be planning her escape. Instead, she touched her swollen lips and waited for him to come back to her. Aurelia waited 2 hours before Fred returned. When his bedroom door opened, she saw blood on his knuckles, his shirt torn, his eyes hollow. He looked like a man who'd stared into hell and brought some of it back with him. Is he dead? She asked quietly. Does it matter? Fred moved to the bar, pouring himself 3 fingers of whiskey. He downed it in one swallow. Yes, it matters to me. He poured another glass, this one he just stared at. Marco is alive, barely. He's in the hospital under guard. His jaw tightened. He gave up the rest of them before I was finished asking. The rest? Vincent, Angelo, 2 others. He laughed, the sound bitter. Half my inner circle was planning to overthrow me. They were going to use you to draw me out, kill me, then divide my territory. Aurelia moved closer, reaching for his bloodied hands. He pulled away. Don't. You don't want to touch me right now. Fred? I tortured a man tonight, Aurelia. Made him scream until he told me everything I wanted to know. That's who I am. That's what I do. He finally looked at her, and the anguish in his eyes made her chest ache. You should be running from me, not standing here like you still see something worth saving. She closed the distance between them and took his hands despite his protests. Leading him to the bathroom, she ran warm water and began washing the blood away. His knuckles were split, bruising already forming. I'm not running, she said softly. Why not? Any sane woman would. Maybe I'm not sane anymore. She dried his hands gently, then brought them to her lips, kissing each damaged knuckle. Or maybe I see what you don't. A man who protects what's his. A man who was betrayed by people he trusted and still didn't kill them. I wanted to. His voice was raw. God, Aurelia, I wanted to paint the walls with their blood. But you didn't. She cupped his face, making him meet her eyes. That matters. He pulled her against him, burying his face in her neck. She felt him shaking, this powerful man who commanded an empire, trembling in her arms like he might shatter. They were my brothers, he whispered. Vincent has been with me for 15 years, and he was going to kill me, use you to do it. She held him tighter, her fingers threading through his hair. I'm so sorry. They stood like that for long minutes, Aurelia being the strong one for once. Finally, Fred pulled back, his whiskey eyes searching hers. We need to leave. Tonight. Vincent is still out there, and he knows all my safe houses, all my protocols. He touched her face gently. I'm taking you somewhere no one knows about. Just you and me. What about your empire? I have loyal men who can handle things. Thomas is taking over until this is resolved. His thumb traced her lower lip. Right now, keeping you alive is the only thing that matters. They left within the hour, taking only one SUV and Tony as their driver. The safe house was 2 hours outside the city, hidden in the mountains. A cabin, Fred called it, though it was more like a luxury lodge with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a lake. How long do we stay here? Aurelia asked as Fred carried their bags inside. As long as it takes. He locked the door, engaged the security system, then turned to her. I have men hunting Vincent and the others. When they're found. He left the sentence unfinished. Tony took the guest room on the first floor, while Fred led Aurelia upstairs to the master suite. The moment the door closed, the tension that had been building between them since the warehouse ignited. Fred backed her against the door, his hands on either side of her head. I almost lost you tonight. When I saw that message on my desk, his forehead pressed against hers. I can't lose you, Aurelia. I won't survive it. You won't lose me. She pulled his mouth down to hers, kissing him with all the fear and need and desperate love she'd been holding back. He groaned, his body pinning hers to the door as he devoured her mouth. His hands roamed her curves, gripping her hips, her thighs, pulling her leg up around his waist. She could feel his need, hard and insistent, and her body responded with liquid heat. I need you, he growled against her throat. Need to be inside you, feel you alive and mine. Then stop talking. She pulled at his shirt, her nails scraping down his muscled chest. He lifted her, carrying her to the bed. The red dress disappeared in seconds, leaving her in only the black lace he'd bought her. His eyes went dark with possession as he studied every curve. Perfect, he breathed. Every inch of you is perfect. His mouth found her throat, her collarbone, the swell of her breasts above the lace. She arched into him, her fingers tangling in his hair. When his hand slid between her thighs, finding her wet and ready, she moaned his name. Fred, please. A phone rang, shattering the moment. Fred ignored it, his mouth blazing a trail down her stomach. It rang again, and again. Fred, she gasped. You should answer it. He grabbed the phone with a snarl. This better be life or death. His expression changed as he listened. He sat up slowly, every muscle tensing. When? How many? A pause. I understand. Double the guard. I'll be there in 3 hours. He ended the call and sat on the edge of the bed, his head in his hands. What happened? Aurelia asked, pulling the sheet around herself. Vincent hit one of my warehouses, killed 6 men, stole $500,000 in product. His voice was hollow. Thomas wants me back in the city, says the organization is fracturing without me there. So we go back. I go back. You stay here with Tony. Aurelia's stomach dropped. No, we stay together. It's not safe. It's not safe anywhere. She moved to kneel beside him, forcing him to look at her. Fred, I didn't come this far to hide in a cabin while you face this alone. This is my world, my mess. I won't risk you. You don't get to make that choice for me. His hands gripped her shoulders. Yes, I do. Because if something happens to you, I become the monster everyone thinks I am. You're the only thing keeping me human, Aurelia, the only good thing in my life. I need to know you're safe. She saw the fear in his eyes, the desperate need to protect her, but she also saw something else. Doubt. Do you trust me? She asked quietly. Of course. Then why does it feel like you're pushing me away? He stood abruptly, pacing to the window. I'm trying to keep you alive. Or you're looking for an excuse to go back to the life you know. She pulled on her dress, her hands shaking. Maybe Vincent was right. Maybe I am just a distraction, a liability. Don't. He turned, his eyes blazing. Don't put words in my mouth. Then tell me the truth. What am I to you, Fred? Really? He crossed to her in 3 strides, his hands framing her face. You're everything. My salvation, my damnation. The only thing I've ever wanted more than power. His kiss was bruising in its intensity. But wanting you and keeping you safe are 2 different things. I don't need you to keep me safe. I need you to trust me to stand beside you. And if you get killed standing beside me, what then? Then at least we were together. She grabbed his shirt, pulling him close. I'm not some delicate flower, Fred. I'm a woman who chose you, knowing exactly what you are. Stop trying to protect me from the consequences of my own choices. He stared at her for a long moment, something like awe in his expression. Then he kissed her again, slower this time, thorough and claiming. You're incredible, he murmured against her lips. Terrifying and incredible. So I'm coming with you? He sighed, pulling her into his arms. You're coming with me. But you stay close, you follow orders, and if I tell you to run, you run. Agreed? Agreed. They held each other as moonlight streamed through the windows. Tomorrow they would go back to the city, back to the war that was tearing Fred's empire apart, but tonight, in this moment, they had each other. Aurelia? Fred's voice was soft in the darkness. Yes? When this is over, when Vincent is dealt with and things are stable, he pulled back to look at her. I want you to wear my ring. For real. Her breath caught. Fred, I know it's insane. We barely know each other, but I've never been more certain of anything. His thumb traced her lower lip. Say you'll think about it. She should say no, should tell him it was too fast, too dangerous, too everything. Instead, she heard herself whisper, I'll think about it. His smile was worth every risk she'd taken. He kissed her once more, then pulled her down to the bed, holding her close as sleep finally claimed them both. Tomorrow would bring new dangers, new battles, but tonight they had this fragile, precious thing between them. And Aurelia realized with startling clarity that she would fight just as hard as Fred to protect it. The drive back to the city felt like riding toward a storm. Aurelia watched the landscape blur past, her hand clasped in Fred's. He'd been on the phone for most of the trip, coordinating with Thomas, issuing orders in that calm, authoritative voice that made men jump to obey. Vincent knows we're coming, Fred said after ending another call. He's holed up in the old textile factory on 5th, has maybe 20 men with him. And you have? 50, but numbers don't always matter. His jaw tightened. Vincent knows how I think, how I fight. He trained half my men himself. So we don't fight the way he expects. Fred looked at her, something calculating in his eyes. What are you thinking? He expects you to come in with overwhelming force, right? Surround the building, force him out, or storm in. She bit her lip, thinking, what if you give him what he thinks he wants instead? I'm listening. Me. She said it before she could lose her nerve. He wanted to use me to get to you, so let him think he has. Absolutely not. Listen to me. What if Vincent thinks I left you, that I got scared and ran? You'd be angry, distracted, vulnerable. She squeezed his hand. He'd get overconfident, make mistakes. Fred's eyes darkened. You want to use yourself as bait. I want to end this so we can have a life, a real one. She touched his face. Trust me, Fred. I can do this. He pulled her onto his lap, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world. If anything happens to you, it won't. She kissed him softly. You won't let it. The plan came together quickly. Thomas balked at the idea, but Fred overruled him. Aurelia would approach the factory alone, claiming she'd stolen Fred's car and escaped. She'd beg Vincent for protection, tell him she had information about Fred's operations. Once inside, she'd find a way to let Fred's men in. This is insane, Thomas muttered as they fitted Aurelia with a wire. Boss, there are a dozen other ways. None that end this tonight. Fred checked the wire himself, his hands gentle against her skin. You remember the signal? I say, I need air, and your men move in. She caught his hands. Fred, I can do this. I know you can. That's what terrifies me. He pulled her close, kissing her hard and deep. But if he touches you, if he even looks at you wrong, I'm burning that building to the ground with everyone in it. Romantic, she murmured against his lips. I'm not joking. The textile factory loomed ahead, abandoned for years but now crawling with Vincent's men. Aurelia took a deep breath, smoothed down her clothes, and started walking. Her heart hammered so hard she was sure they could hear it. A guard stepped out, gun raised. Stop right there! I need to see Vincent. She made her voice shake. Please, Frederick Atlas is looking for me. I barely got away. The guard studied her suspiciously, then spoke into his radio. Minutes later, she was being escorted inside. Vincent waited in what used to be the factory floor, surrounded by machinery covered in dusty tarps. He smiled when he saw her, the expression predatory. Well, well, the little nurse. I heard you and the boss had a fight. He's insane. Aurelia wrapped her arms around herself. He killed Marco right in front of me. I thought I was next. So you ran. Smart girl. Vincent circled her slowly. But why come here? You know what I am. You're Fred's enemy. That makes you my best chance at survival. She met his eyes. I have information about his accounts, his safe houses, everything. I'll trade it for protection. Vincent laughed. You think I believe that? Fred Atlas doesn't share operational details with his bedwarmers. I'm not just his bedwarmer, she let anger creep into her voice. I'm a nurse. You think I didn't notice things? Didn't hear phone calls, see documents? He trusted me. Trusted. Past tense. Vincent moved closer, his hand catching her chin. Or is this all an act? Did Fred send you here to get close to me? If Fred sent me, would I be wired? She pulled up her shirt slightly, showing her bare stomach. Go ahead. Search me. It was a gamble. The wire was well hidden, but if Vincent was thorough. He studied her for a long moment, then stepped back. You've got guts, I'll give you that, but I'm not stupid enough to trust you without proof. I can prove it. Ask me anything about his operations. Vincent's eyes gleamed. His offshore accounts. Where does he keep the access codes? Aurelia hesitated, then said, In his office safe, behind the Hemingway first edition. It was true, something she'd overheard Thomas mention. Vincent's expression shifted to surprise, then greed. What else? Get me somewhere safe and I'll tell you everything. She looked around nervously. But not here. This place gives me the creeps. I need air. The signal. She'd given the signal. Vincent didn't notice. too focused on the information she'd dangled. Fine, we'll go to my car, somewhere more comfortable to talk. The explosion shook the building. Fred's men blew the west entrance, flooding in with military precision. Vincent's surprise lasted only a second before he grabbed Aurelia, a gun appearing in his hand. "I knew it!" He pressed the barrel against her temple. "You lying bitch!" Fred appeared through the smoke and chaos, his own gun trained on Vincent. Around them, men fought and died, but Fred's entire focus was on Aurelia. "Let her go, Vincent." "So you can kill me?" "I don't think so." Vincent backed toward a door, dragging Aurelia with him. "She's my ticket out of here." "There is no out. Every exit is covered." Fred's voice was deadly calm. "You've lost. Let her go, and I'll make it quick." "Quick?" Vincent laughed bitterly. "Like you did for Marco? I heard his screams, Fred. I know what you're capable of." "Then you know what I'll do if you hurt her." Vincent's hand tightened on Aurelia. She could feel him shaking, desperation making him dangerous. "She was supposed to be your weakness. Instead, she made you stronger." His voice turned vicious. "Maybe I should just kill her now. Take away the one thing that makes you human." Time seemed to slow. Aurelia saw Fred's finger tighten on the trigger, saw the calculation in his eyes. He was going to take the shot, risk hitting her to save her. She couldn't let him carry that weight. Using every ounce of her nursing training, she found the pressure point on Vincent's wrist and pressed hard. His grip loosened for just a second. She dropped, dead weight, falling out of his grasp. Fred's gun barked twice. Vincent crumpled, blood blooming on his chest. Then Fred was there, pulling Aurelia into his arms, his hands running over her frantically. "Are you hurt? Did he hurt you? Aurelia, talk to me." "I'm fine." She clung to him, her whole body shaking. "I'm fine." He kissed her desperately, his lips finding hers over and over, like he needed to confirm she was alive. Around them, the fighting had stopped. Vincent's men were surrendering, or dead. "Don't ever do that again," Fred growled against her mouth. "Don't ever put yourself in danger like that." "It worked, didn't it?" "I don't care." He pulled back, his eyes blazing. "I almost lost you." Another second and he would have pulled that trigger. "But he didn't, because you trained me, because we trusted each other." She cupped his face. "We won, Fred." Thomas approached, carefully not looking at them. "Boss, we've secured the building. What do you want us to do with the survivors?" Fred's arms tightened around Aurelia. "Let them go. Anyone who wants out of this life gets out. Anyone who wants to stay swears loyalty to me right now, or they leave the city by morning." Thomas's eyebrows rose. "Boss?" "You heard me." Fred looked down at Aurelia. "I'm done with half measures, done with people I can't trust. From now on, everyone in my organization is there because they choose to be, not because they're afraid." After the survivors were processed and removed, Fred took Aurelia to his car. But instead of heading to the mansion, he drove to the waterfront where she'd pulled him from the river just days ago. "This is where it started," he said, helping her from the car. "Where you saved me. I just did what anyone would do." "No." He turned her to face him, the city lights reflecting in his whiskey eyes. "You did what only you would do. You saw someone in trouble, and you didn't hesitate. You risked everything." He reached into his pocket. "And tonight, you did it again." He pulled out a ring. Not flashy or ostentatious, but elegant. A diamond surrounded by smaller stones that caught the light like stars. "I know it's too soon. I know we barely know each other. I know I'm asking you to accept a life that's dangerous and complicated and nothing like what you deserve." He took her hand. "But Aurelia Vance, you are the bravest, most incredible woman I've ever met, and I'm asking you to marry me anyway." Tears blurred her vision. "Fred, you can say no. I'll understand. But know that whether you wear this ring or not, you own me, completely, forever." She looked at the ring, at this man who'd turned her quiet life upside down. A week ago, she'd been a simple nurse. Now she was standing at the river where it all began, being proposed to by a mafia boss who looked at her like she hung the moon. It was insane, reckless, everything she'd never been. "Yes," she whispered. His smile was brilliant, transforming his face. He slipped the ring on her finger, then kissed her with a tenderness that made her heart ache. "Yes?" he repeated, like he couldn't quite believe it. "Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll accept your dangerous, complicated life. Yes to all of it." She pulled him down for another kiss. "Because I love you, Frederick Atlas. I love you too." He lifted her, spinning her around as she laughed. "God, Aurelia, I love you so much." They stood there, wrapped in each other, as the river flowed past. The same river that had tried to claim Fred's life, that had brought them together. Aurelia looked at the ring sparkling on her finger and knew that whatever came next, they would face it together. The news of their engagement spread through Fred's organization like wildfire. By morning, every man who worked for Frederick Atlas knew that the nurse who'd saved his life was now going to be his wife. Aurelia woke in Fred's bed, sunlight streaming through the windows, his ring heavy on her finger. For a moment, she wondered if she'd dreamed it all. Then Fred's arm tightened around her waist, pulling her back against his chest. "Good morning, future Mrs. Atlas," he murmured against her neck, his voice rough with sleep. She turned in his arms, studying his face in the morning light. The bruises from Vincent's betrayal were fading, but she could still see the weight of what had happened in his eyes. "Are you sure about this?" she asked quietly. "About me?" "More sure than I've ever been about anything." His hand came up to cup her face. "Why? Are you having second thoughts?" "No. Maybe. I don't know." She sat up, the sheet pooling around her waist. "Fred, a week ago I was nobody, just a nurse living a quiet life. Now I'm engaged to the most powerful man in the city. People are going to talk, judge. Some might even come after me. They'll have to go through me first." He pulled her back down, rolling so she was beneath him. "And I'm very hard to get through." She smiled despite her worries. "I'm being serious." "So am I." He kissed her softly. "Aurelia, I won't lie and say this life will be easy. It won't be. People will judge you for choosing me. Some will hate you for it. But I swear to you, I will spend every day making sure you never regret saying yes." His kiss deepened, his tongue sliding against hers as his hands roamed her body. She arched into him, her curves molding to his hard muscles. When his hand slipped between her thighs, finding her already wet, she moaned into his mouth. "Fred, I need you," he growled. "Need to make you mine in every way." Their lovemaking was slow and intense, Fred taking his time to worship every inch of her body. When he finally slid inside her, they both gasped at the perfection of it. He moved with controlled power, each thrust claiming her, marking her as his. "I love you," he breathed against her lips as they moved together. "My brave, beautiful Aurelia." "I love you too," she gasped, her nails digging into his shoulders as pleasure built inside her. When they finally came apart together, Fred held her close, his forehead pressed to hers. "Mine," he whispered. "Forever." Later, after a shower that turned into another heated encounter against the tiles, Aurelia insisted on going to work. "You don't have to work anymore," Fred said, watching her dress. "I can take care of you." "I know you can. But I need this, Fred. I need to still be me, not just your fiancé." She turned to face him. "Being a nurse isn't just what I do. It's who I am." He studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Okay, but you're taking security with you." "Fred, non-negotiable. Vincent is dead, but he had allies. Until we're sure there are no more threats, you have protection. His expression softened. Please, Aurelia, for my peace of mind. She agreed, though having two large men in suits following her through the hospital felt surreal. Her coworkers noticed immediately. Aurelia! Maria grabbed her arm the moment she arrived. Is it true? Are you really engaged to Frederick Atlas? Word traveled fast. Yes. It's true. Oh my God! Maria's eyes were wide. How? When? Tell me everything! But before Aurelia could answer, the hospital administrator appeared. Miss Vance, may I have a word? In his office, he looked uncomfortable. Miss Vance, there have been concerns raised about your relationship with Mr. Atlas. Given his reputation, the board feels it might be inappropriate for you to continue working here. Aurelia's stomach dropped. You're firing me? Not firing. We're suggesting a leave of absence, just until things settle down. Things won't settle down. I'm marrying him. She stood, anger replacing shock. I've worked here for 5 years. My record is spotless. And you're asking me to leave because of who I'm engaged to? We have to think about the hospital's reputation. No. You have to think about discrimination laws. She planted her hands on his desk. I'm a good nurse, the best you have in the ER, and unless you can give me a legitimate reason related to my job performance, I'm not going anywhere. The administrator shifted uncomfortably. Miss Vance. It's going to be Mrs. Atlas soon, and my husband-to-be has made significant charitable donations to this hospital over the years. It would be a shame if those stopped because you discriminated against his wife. It was a bluff. She had no idea Fred donated to the hospital, but the administrator's expression told her she'd guessed right. Perhaps we were hasty, he said carefully. Of course you can continue working here. She left his office shaking, adrenaline making her hands tremble. One of her bodyguards, a man named James, gave her an approving nod. Well played, Miss Vance. I can't believe I just threatened my boss. You're learning. He almost smiled. Mr. Atlas will be proud. Her shift was strange. Patients stared at her ring. Coworkers whispered when they thought she couldn't hear. But when a trauma came in, a car accident victim bleeding out, Aurelia fell into the familiar rhythm of saving lives. Her hands were steady as she worked, her mind clear and focused. This was who she was. Fred's fiancée, yes, but also a nurse who saved lives. She could be both. Fred was waiting when she got home, pacing the foyer. He pulled her into his arms the moment she walked in. How was it? Interesting. I may have threatened my boss with the loss of your charitable donations. He laughed, the sound rich and warm. That's my girl. What did he do to deserve that? She told him about the administrator's request for her to take leave. Fred's expression darkened. Give me his name. No, I handled it. She touched his face. Fred, I need to be able to fight my own battles sometimes. Not every problem can be solved with intimidation or violence. I know, but that doesn't mean I like watching you struggle. I'm not struggling, I'm adapting. She kissed him softly. We both are. That evening, Thomas came by with papers for Fred to sign. He found them in the study. Aurelia curled up reading while Fred worked. Boss, the reorganization is complete. Everyone who stayed has sworn loyalty. We're stronger now than before the purge. Good. And the territories Vincent contested? Mikhail backed down. Apparently word got out about what happened to Vincent. No one wants to test you right now. After Thomas left, Fred pulled Aurelia onto his lap. See, everything is settling down. For now, she played with his collar. But there will always be another Vincent, another Mikhail, another threat. Yes. He didn't lie to her, and she appreciated that. This life comes with enemies, but it also comes with power, resources, the ability to protect the people we love. Is it worth it? The constant danger? He turned her to face him, his hands on her waist. With you? Yes. 1,000 times yes. His kiss was gentle but thorough. Before you, I was just existing, building an empire because I didn't know what else to do. But you gave me a reason, something worth protecting beyond just power and control. I'm just one person, Fred. One woman. You're not just anything. His hands slid under her shirt, finding warm skin. You're everything. They made love on the couch, urgent and desperate, celebrating being alive and together. Afterward, tangled together, Aurelia traced the scars on his chest. Tell me about this one, she said, touching a particularly nasty scar near his heart. Knife fight when I was 19. The guy who gave it to me taught me an important lesson. Never turn your back on family. Your family did this? My cousin. He thought he should be running things instead of me. Fred's hand covered hers. I was too trusting back then. Thought blood meant loyalty. And now? Now I know loyalty is earned, not inherited. He brought her hand to his lips. You've earned mine, Aurelia. Completely. She kissed him, pouring all her love and fear and hope into it. When they finally pulled apart, she rested her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat. I'm scared, she admitted quietly. Not of you or this life, but of losing you, of something happening and me being alone again. You won't be alone. Even if something happens to me, you'll be protected. Thomas knows to take care of you, to make sure you have everything you need. I don't want your money or protection. I want you. His arms tightened around her. Then I'll do everything in my power to make sure you have me for a very long time. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other, as the city lights flickered outside. Aurelia knew this was her life now. The danger, the passion, the intensity of loving a man like Frederick Atlas. She wouldn't trade it for anything. Later, in bed, Fred pulled out his phone and showed her something. I've been thinking about the wedding. How do you feel about next month? Next month? That's so soon. I don't want to wait. I've waited my whole life for you without knowing it. He kissed her shoulder. Besides, the sooner you're my wife, the sooner everyone knows you're completely off limits. She smiled against his chest. Romantic. I'm a criminal, not a poet. You're my criminal. She looked at the ring on her finger, still not quite believing it was real. Okay, next month. But I want a small wedding. Just people who matter. Whatever you want. His hand splayed across her stomach possessively. As long as you end up as Mrs. Frederick Atlas, I don't care about the details. As she drifted off to sleep, Aurelia thought about how much her life had changed. A week ago, she'd pulled a drowning man from a river. Now she was planning to spend the rest of her life with him. It was insane. It was perfect. It was hers. And she wouldn't change a single thing. 3 weeks later, Aurelia stood in front of a mirror in a simple white dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Today she would become Mrs. Frederick Atlas. The thought still made her heart race. You look beautiful, Maria said, adjusting Aurelia's veil. She was the only person from Aurelia's old life who'd agreed to come to the wedding. Most of her friends had distanced themselves when they learned who she was marrying. I look terrified, Aurelia admitted. That too. Maria squeezed her hand. Are you sure about this? It's not too late to change your mind. Was she sure? She thought about the past 3 weeks. The late nights when Fred came home exhausted from rebuilding his organization. The early mornings when he held her like she might disappear. The quiet moments when they were just two people who'd found each other against impossible odds. I'm sure, she said. The ceremony was small, held in the garden of Fred's mansion. Only 20 people attended, mostly Fred's trusted men and their families. Thomas stood as best man, looking uncomfortable in his suit. But when Aurelia walked down the makeshift aisle and saw Fred waiting for her, everything else faded away. He looked devastating in a black tuxedo, his whiskey eyes locked on her with such intensity she forgot to breathe. "You're stunning," he murmured when she reached him, taking her hands in his. The ceremony passed in a blur. She heard herself say, "I do," heard Fred's deep voice promising to love and protect her. Then he was kissing her, claiming her mouth in front of everyone, and she was his wife. Mrs. Frederick Atlas. The reality of it hit her all at once. The reception was brief. Fred endured an hour of congratulations and business discussions before pulling Aurelia aside. "I need to get you alone," he growled in her ear. "I've been watching you in that dress all evening and I'm losing my mind." Heat pooled low in her stomach. "We should stay. It's rude to leave our own reception." "I don't care." His hand slid to the small of her back, burning through the thin fabric. "You're my wife now. That means I can take you to bed whenever I want." They slipped away while Thomas distracted the guests. Fred led her upstairs to his bedroom, now their bedroom, and locked the door behind them. "Finally," he breathed, pulling her against him. "Do you have any idea how hard it's been not to touch you all day?" "You've been touching me all day." "Not the way I want to." His hands found the zipper of her dress, slowly pulling it down. "Not the way a husband should touch his wife." The dress pulled at her feet, leaving her in only white lace lingerie. Fred's eyes went dark with desire as he studied every curve. "Perfect," he murmured, his fingers tracing the edge of her bra. "My beautiful wife." She reached for his bow tie, loosening it with trembling fingers. "I like how that sounds." "Wife." "Say it again." "I'm your wife, Fred." He groaned, capturing her mouth in a searing kiss. His tongue swept inside, tasting her, claiming her. She melted against him, her hands working to remove his jacket, his shirt, revealing the muscled chest she'd come to know so well. "I love you," she whispered against his lips. "Show me." He lifted her, carrying her to their bed. "Show me how much." Their lovemaking was different tonight. Slower, more intense, weighted with the vows they'd just made. Fred took his time undressing her, kissing every inch of skin he revealed. When he finally settled between her thighs, they both gasped at the connection. "Mine," he breathed, moving inside her with deep, controlled thrusts. "Forever mine." "Yours," she agreed, her nails digging into his shoulders. "Always yours." He made love to her like he was memorizing her body, like he wanted to brand himself on her soul. When she came apart beneath him, crying his name, he followed her over the edge, burying his face in her neck. Afterward, they lay tangled together, hearts racing, skin slick with sweat. "That was worth waiting for," Fred murmured, pressing kisses along her shoulder. "We've made love plenty of times." "Not as husband and wife." He rolled them so she was draped across his chest. "Everything is different now. Better." She traced patterns on his skin, her ring catching the lamplight. "Are you happy?" "Happier than I ever thought possible." His hand cupped her face, tilting it up so he could see her eyes. "Are you? No regrets?" "No regrets." She kissed him softly. "Though I never imagined my life would turn out like this." "Neither did I. I thought I'd die alone, probably violently, with nothing to show for my life but blood and money." His thumb traced her cheekbone. "Then you pulled me from that river and gave me a reason to live instead of just survive. You gave me a reason too. Before you, I was going through the motions. Work, home, sleep, repeat. I was alive, but not living. And now? Now I'm terrified and exhilarated and more alive than I've ever been." She kissed him again, deeper this time. "I love you, Frederick Atlas, even when you're bossy and overprotective and impossible." "Especially then," he corrected with a smile. Admit it, you like when I'm bossy. Heat crept up her cheeks. Maybe sometimes. His hand slid down her back, cupping her bottom and pulling her more firmly against him. Only sometimes? I think we need to work on that. They made love again, this time with Fred showing her exactly how bossy he could be, and Aurelia discovering she liked it very much indeed. Later, as they lay sated and drowsy, Fred's phone buzzed. He ignored it. You should check it, Aurelia said. It could be important. You're more important. Fred. He sighed and reached for the phone, reading the message. His expression shifted to something dark and dangerous. What is it? Aurelia asked, sitting up. Mikhail is making moves again, testing boundaries. He set the phone aside and pulled her back against him. Nothing that can't wait until morning. Will it ever stop? The threats, the power plays, the danger? He was quiet for a long moment. No. This is the life I chose, the world I built. There will always be someone wanting what I have, trying to take me down. So we'll never be truly safe. Safe is relative. His arms tightened around her. But I can promise you this. I will do everything in my power to protect you. To give you as normal a life as possible despite the chaos around us. She turned in his arms, straddling his hips. I don't need normal, Fred. I need you. I need honesty about the dangers we face. I need to be your partner, not just someone you protect. You are my partner. Then treat me like one. Don't hide the threats from me. Let me help you navigate this world. He studied her face, something like awe in his expression. How did I get so lucky? You almost drowned. She leaned down to kiss him. And I happened to drive by. Fate, he murmured against her lips. Or coincidence. I prefer fate. His hands gripped her hips as she began to move against him. Because it means we were always meant to find each other. They came together again. This time with Aurelia in control, showing him that she was strong enough to stand beside him in every way that mattered. The next morning, Aurelia woke to find Fred already up, standing by the window with his phone. The sight of him silhouetted against the dawn light, all lean muscle and controlled power, made her heart skip. Come back to bed, she called. He turned, his expression softening when he saw her. I have to handle the Mikhail situation. I know, but you have 5 minutes for your wife. He was back in bed in seconds, pulling her against him. 5 minutes isn't nearly enough. Then make them count. He kissed her thoroughly, his hands roaming her body like he was relearning every curve. Tonight, I'm taking you away for a few days. A real honeymoon. What about Mikhail? Thomas can handle it. My wife is more important than territorial disputes. He kissed her again. Say yes. Yes. That evening they left the city behind, driving to a private beach house Fred owned. For 3 days they existed in a bubble of just the two of them. No bodyguards, no business calls, no threats. Just Aurelia and Fred learning how to be husband and wife. On their last night, they sat on the beach watching the sunset. Fred pulled her between his legs, wrapping his arms around her. I want to ask you something, he said quietly. What? If you could go back to that night, knowing everything that would happen, would you still pull me from that river? She didn't hesitate. Yes. Even knowing it would turn your life upside down? Especially knowing that. She turned to look at him. Because that night led me here. To you. To this life we're building together. His kiss was gentle, reverent. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she teased, but you're stuck with me anyway. Forever, he agreed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Aurelia thought about the journey that had brought them here. From a foggy night and a sinking Cadillac to this moment, married and building a life together. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It was dangerous, complicated, and would probably always be touched by the darkness of Fred's world. but it was theirs. She thought about the 10 SUVs that had arrived at her house that first morning, how terrified she'd been. Now those SUVs represented safety, family, the organization Fred had built, and was transforming into something better. "What are you thinking about?" Fred asked, his breath warm against her ear. "How much has changed? How much I've changed?" "Regrets? No." She laced her fingers with his. "But I do wonder about the future. About what comes next." "What do you want to come next?" She thought about it. "A life, a real one, where we're not just surviving threats, but actually living." "We can have that." His hand splayed across her stomach. "We can have everything." "Even in your world?" "Especially in my world, because now I have something worth changing it for." He turned her to face him. "I'm not going to lie and say I'll go legitimate. I can't. But I can be better. Smarter. Less reckless. For me? For us." His hand covered hers on her stomach. "For the family we might have someday." Tears pricked her eyes. "You want children? With you? More than anything." He kissed her softly. "But only when you're ready, when you feel safe enough." She kissed him back, tasting salt and promise. "I love you, Frederick Atlas." "I love you too, Aurelia Atlas." They stayed on the beach until the stars came out, wrapped in each other, planning a future that was uncertain but theirs. Whatever challenges came, they would face them together. As they walked back to the house hand in hand, Aurelia looked up at the stars and silently thanked fate, or coincidence, or whatever had put her on that road the night Fred's Cadillac went into the river. She'd saved his life. And in return, he'd given her one worth living. "Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this incredible journey. If this story touched your heart, wait until you see what's coming next. It's even more powerful and inspiring than you can imagine." So don't go anywhere. Click on that video showing on your screen right now to dive into another amazing story that will absolutely blow your mind. Trust me, you won't regret it.